Hello and welcome back to Hop to the Top, and the Champions League all comes down to today. We just have to do better than what Salzburg do in their game, and we'll qualify into the the later stages of the Champions League. However, we've got to be either drawing or beating Chelsea for that to even be remotely possible. So quite the tough challenge coming up today. But first of all, we have young boys in the league in what is first versus second in the league table. Now, since you were last here, we have scored 10 goals in 3 games. However, we have played terribly in most of those games, which you might think is a little bit weird and confusing. And that is because in between episodes, we scored 10 goals in one game. Yes, 10 goals in one game. We'll talk about that in a moment's time. You were last here, of course, for the draw with Salzburg and the win over Lausanne. We then suffered our first league defeat of the season in a terrible game away to Basel. Just look at the stats in this one, lads. Look at the stats in this one. 17 shots to 4 shots in. What was a very strong lineup, I thought, in my opinion. But clearly, for whatever reason, the boys just couldn't turn up. And that means that we aren't going to be invincible this season. That is kind of upsetting, to be fair. I want to try and get an invincible season at some point. It kind of just sort of takes away the shine from the league now because, like, we are the best team in the Swiss Super League and we are sort of, I want to say, almost guaranteed to win it each season now. So the focus of this series has shifted away from the league now and into Europe, and that's where our main focus, I suppose, is going to lie for the rest of the season. But then again, there's also massive chances that we just get knocked out of Europe, and then it's kind of like, well, what's left to play this season for then? We're pretty much winning the league title as we always do. So we have to maybe rethink things a little bit with this series to try and keep it a little bit more exciting. So let me know in the comment section what you think about that, because I'd be interested to get your feedback on it. After that 2-0 loss, though, to Basel, we played Copenhagen away from home, and we won 10-1. I don't think I've had a bigger scoreline than this for years and years and years. I cannot remember. Either way, Bottles got a hat-trick. Jerome Bernard got 1. El Hadj Kohli got 2 after coming off the bench. But Alex Smith scored 4 goals in that game, which was pretty impressive. And he's the first person to score more than 3 goals in a game in this entire Hop to the Top save. I got a news article saying that Alex Smith has scored 4 goals in this game. That's the most goals a Grasshopper player's ever scored in one game since Sukachev scored 3 goals. Obviously, quite a few players have scored hat-tricks since then, but Sukachev was the first person in this save to score a hat-trick, so he had the record for the most goals in the game because he was the first one to do it in this save, you get what I'm trying to say. So since then, no one scored more than 3, apart from Alex Smith in the 4 away from home to Copenhagen. So well done, Alex Smith. Unfortunately, after scoring 10 goals against Copenhagen, we couldn't score any against Thun, which was very disappointing there. I mean, we did rotate the lineup quite a lot in that game, but still, you would have thought with Bottles and Smith both on the pitch, we could score some goals. Apparently not. So what it means for the league table is we are currently top of the table by 5 points still with a game in hand, so that could still extend to 8 points, but we'll go to 8 points today if we manage to beat Young Boys, and then could go to 11 points with the game in hand as well, so it's pretty decent. In terms of the Champions League, Chelsea are already qualified, but they beat Salzburg, so what that means is we are level on points with Salzburg, but they're ahead of us because they have a better head-to-head record as they beat us once and drew with us, so they've got the better head-to-head record, so ideally we want them to lose to Copenhagen and we just pick up a draw or a win against Chelsea. But something tells me that Salzburg are probably going to beat Copenhagen, and at that point we can't qualify. If Salzburg win, we can't qualify because they have better head-to-head record than us, and it means we'll finish 3rd in our group and drop down into the Europa League. But of course, we'll talk more about that when we actually get to that particular game. In the meantime, we've got a big game against Young Boys coming up. So Calas stays in goal as per usual with a backline of Guardado, Augusto, Sterigu and Felipe Cruz. And what is for the first time in quite a while a full-strength back line, in my opinion, after we've had injuries and suspensions of players. I don't think we've had a proper full back line for a few weeks now, so that's quite good to see. Paulo Bernardo in that box-to-box midfielder role as Schneider comes back into the side after his injury. Granit Xhaka almost back from his injury as well, which is good to see. Bernard, Alex Smith and Capitano in that attacking midfield with Matthew Bottles leading the line. Still only got 6 goals in 14 league appearances, but the 9 in 19 overall looks slightly better now, but he's just lost that form a little bit. However, saying that, if we look at Paris, Neymar has recently come out and says he wants Bottles to join Paris Saint-Germain. So we could be seeing some big bids coming from him in January from PSG, and that's something we need to think about quite a bit. Right then, kickoff is upon us here today, and the man leading the line for Young Boys, Guendouzi, he's the guy that we tried to sign off PSG right at the start of the season, but he decided to choose Young Boys over us, and he's actually done very well this season, scoring 11 goals in 14 league appearances. So if Bottles does end up going to PSG, I think we might make this chap our prime target. We might have to pay a premium for him, but obviously I assume that if Bottles does go to PSG, it's going to be for upwards of £60 million. That's what I'm going to try and get, at least £60 million. Obviously, if they put bids in, we'll negotiate it up quite a lot and see what we can sort of get. But the thing with Bottles, as much as I love him, want to keep him at the club, because he did score 40 goals last season, every player's got their value. And if he can bring in upwards of £60 million to Grasshoppers, he's got to go. That first half, though, went ridiculously quickly, and it's 0-0. So not fantastic. No highlights in that first half. So both strikers, Bottles and Guendouzi, being kept quiet. Neither of them playing particularly well. Hopefully in the second half, if we just shout out there, get creative out there, we might be able to create something a bit different out there. Lots of inspiration from our players out there, as the first highlight of the game comes around as Alex Smith on the ball, coming into the area, across to Jerome Bernard, who heads it and hits the crossbar, I think, there, and goes over the top, which isn't fantastic, obviously. We want to be scoring some goals in today's game. It looks like pretty cagey stuff, as a corner comes in for Young Boys, and it goes in the back of the net. Does Guendouzi get the last touch on it? I think it might be offside, because Guendouzi was offside. Yes, thankfully that's not gone uncounted as a goal, which is good stuff, because otherwise that would have been a second, well, looking like a second defeat, which isn't brilliant. But we look to be capitalising on the free kick, as Capitano has been fouled there. He was on a yellow card. That's surely a red card for the Young Boys player. It's time to go very attacking now, as they've had a man sent off. We've got to capitalise on this and score some goals, I've got to say. Although a goal kick for Young Boys, punted up towards Felipe Cruz, who can run forward with the ball down that right-hand side of the pitch, putting it across into Bottles. Bottles, head on it, hits the crossbar again and goes out for a goal kick. We are getting closer and closer in today's game. We're going to turn Capitano into an inside forward on attack. Bernard is going to swap with Tim Wright, and he can become an inside forward on support on that left-hand side of the pitch, sorry. I think as well, maybe bringing Tony Cruz on for Paolo Bernardo can just sort of settle things in the middle of the park a little bit, and maybe that might just give us the chance to score a goal in today's game. We've got a few more attacking options if switching to inside forwards. So Felipe Cruz, again, very similar to what he did a minute ago, coming forward, puts into Cruz this time. Cruz back to Schneider, into Alex Smith. Cruz to Guardado. Come on, get it in the middle. Put it across the 6-yard box. It gets blocked. Cruz, though, with a second opportunity to pass it out to Guardado, who can put a cross in. Better this time. Schneider cleared. Felipe Cruz shoots. Bang it. He didn't bang it. Guardado shoots. He didn't. Tim Wright, get it across the box. Something. Just get it in the middle. There's Schneider blocked. Oh, we've been so close here. Eventually, the shot comes away somehow, goes wide of the post. We are being robbed today. Last season, we scored goals for fun. This season, we are having trouble scoring goals, and I'm struggling to see why, because we haven't changed tactics and we haven't really changed personnel that much either. We've pretty much kept a very similar lineup, so I'm a bit confused as to why we just aren't scoring goals this season, especially Matthew Bottles as well. Perhaps he really is just like a one-season wonder sort of thing, and we are going to be better off selling him to PSG in January time and getting someone else in the meantime. But at the end of the game, Young Boys coming forward, their number 16 still through and has won a penalty for them. It's going to the VAR, which Tim Wright's apparently given away, and it is a penalty for Young Boys. You hate to see that. The second half, so much more lively than the first half. Kalas can't save it. Young Boys go ahead. And it's really just not been a good few games for us. Apart from a 10-1 win, it's not been great for us in the Swiss Super League, as Kalas goes the wrong way. Unfortunately, I don't think there's anything we can really do to reply this late on in the game. Felipe Cruz into Alex Smith, back to Felipe Cruz into the middle. Tim Wright's there to try and rectify giving away the penalty. He can't, unfortunately. And I think that's just going to be that. 4 minutes of added time goes by very quickly. And it's another loss there. Another one. 2 in quick succession. And a draw as well, to make matters worse. It's not fantastic, and it's not good form either to go into this Chelsea game. I don't have a great feeling about it. I think we are going to get knocked out of the Champions League at this rate. To try and lift our spirits a little bit, though, we've had an early assessment of the new youth intake. But what is a little concerning, there's lots of yellow and not much green, which doesn't really help me out much. There's a healthy number of fullbacks. At least one of the fullbacks has plenty of promise. We have one good Swiss right back from Uster who's coming through. No new strikers, no new wing-backs. Defensive midfielders aren't looking very good. Central midfielders aren't looking very good. Just midfielders in general aren't looking very good. Attacking midfielders aren't looking very... It's a poor crop of players, apparently, at the moment, which isn't fantastic. we might have to try and poach a few players from elsewhere. Kalas has been linked with Everton with a bid of £21 million being floated around. So, okay. So Kalas is 3.5-star current ability. Hunteball's 2-star. He's not quite... Hunteball maybe just not quite ready to make that step up yet. He's the backup player that we've got, but because he's the backup player, he's not getting the game time that he needs. Also... Who are interested? Schalke interested in Randy Schneider for £24.5 million. At the moment, apparently everyone wants to leave the club. Randy Schneider now wants a new contract, although he has just been given a new contract. Well, not that long ago. He's on a 4-year deal right now, though. What is his agent? What's his agent like? Because I think his agent's helped us out massively in the past. He's known to laud his clients at other clubs while also being regarded as a very impatient negotiator. Well, maybe his agent hasn't saved us. In the meantime, we're going to ask Schneider to sack his agent, and he has done. The new agent, then, is this guy who is known to laud his clients at other clubs while also being regarded as a very impatient negotiator. Oh, no, he's very patient, so that's slightly better, but he tries to get Schneider to go to other clubs, and he dislikes me. That's... you hate to see that. Okay, well, maybe we need to give Schneider a new contract, then. But saying that, he's on a 4-year deal still. 4 years still. Like, it's not like it's urgent. And, you know, we can reject contract offers for him or transfer bids for him for another 4 years. So I don't think he's anything to worry about too much. But if he's asking for a new contract after interest has been made into him, because obviously the previous 2 times we've had bids accepted for him by the board and he's rejected those £40 million plus transfer bids, this time... it's a bit different. If he's asking for a new contract, he might be thinking, I'm going to accept a contract elsewhere. But hear me out on this, okay? If we sold Kalas, Schneider, and Matthew Bottles for a combined fee of, well, you're looking at over £100 million for all 3 of those players. What could we bring in with £100 million? That could be very useful to us. Definitely something to think about. As... I don't think I'm going to change the lineup because I just can't see it getting any better than this. Billy Schmitz is nearly back from injury, so we can't swap him out with Capitano yet. Granit Xhaka is still injured as well. There just isn't really anyone to bring on that's going to massively improve that squad, in my opinion. So, like it or not, we're going to have to stick with this starting lineup for the Chelsea game. So let's submit the team. We're playing at home. Let's hope for the best. So kickoff is upon us here today for the second time and final time, of course, in today's episode. An early goal would do us a lot of favours as Paolo Bernardo, edge of the area, Schneider. I literally thought we were going to score a goal then, literally as I was saying, let's score a goal. Unfortunately, we've lost possession. Moise Kean is currently playing for Chelsea on that left-hand side of the pitch, and he nearly got the ball then. The ball forward wasn't brilliant, but we have retained possession through Augusto, plays it up field to no one in the end, which is kind of frustrating as Moise Kean plays it up towards João Pedro. João Pedro, good save from Kalas there. I think we're going to be in for a very tough evening. So obviously we need to be keeping tabs on the Salzburg-Copenhagen game. That's something we need to keep an eye on as Chelsea have a free kick, playing it short to the edge of the area. Pressure from us immediately, but they still retain possession, Chelsea, as they get it out wide to Taylor. Taylor in the middle, João Pedro's header saved comfortably by Kalas there. But Chelsea really threatening us in the opening 10 minutes of today's game. Playing it short out from the back. Sturgeon up towards Schneider. Up to Bottles, who is unmarked completely. Please, Bottles. Finally gets another goal on camera. It's only his 10th of the season, but again, you know, if PSG are willing to pay a lot of money, I don't really mind too much how many goals he gets because he'll be gone, sort of thing. It's such a tough one to weigh up, but really, I don't know why he wasn't marked there. He goes through, scores the opening goal of the game against Chelsea, and as it stands right now, we move up into second place in the group. Copenhagen, just keep doing your thing. Please keep doing your thing. Hold Salzburg, maybe even beat them. That would be perfect, as Chelsea's ball into the middle, saved by Kalas, which is fantastic. And if we can do the same sort of thing again, just get a ball through to an open man, that would be perfect. Kalas then, out towards Sturgeon, plays it up towards Felipe Cruz, back to him. Come on, lads. Another fantastic ball up to Bottles. Bottles through once again, saved by the keeper again, though. Hudson-Odoi now on the ball, up towards Taylor, the number 17. Plays it back to Hudson-Odoi, and they're through in behind the defence. James to put the ball into the middle. Moise Kean's there. Great block from our defenders as they still retain possession, Chelsea. Mount on the ball. Hudson-Odoi shoots. Scores the goal, unfortunately. The lead has been cut down to a draw, And as it stands, we drop back down into third place. Come on, Copenhagen. Do your thing, get a goal. Although doing their thing is probably conceding goals, because we have scored 15 goals past Copenhagen in 2 games this season, which is pretty mental. Bottles through again. Kepa with another big save there, which is pretty impressive stuff. And Chelsea are being saved by him. We've had a good few chances, and Kepa's kept them in the game, I've got to say, for the most part. I think a weaker keeper would have conceded two more goals to Bottles. Bottles unlucky not to score a hat-trick today, I've got to say, already, which is, you know, good for us, because it means he's in some decent form, obviously, but we want to be scoring more goals, and currently he's not brilliant with one-on-ones at the moment still. As Schneider into Felipe Cruz, back to Capitano. Schneider, Alex Smith off the upright and cleared and goes out for a goal kick. Oh, we are getting so close. We are so up for this game. It's just a shame that it's not quite going our way. It's mental to think, actually, we are on top of this game in terms of possession and shots and things like that against a Chelsea side who are currently 4th in the Premier League. Have they won it in recent years? They haven't won it in recent years, so we're not that good still, but obviously still in the Champions League, which is pretty good going. Oh, you hate to see it right at the start of the second half. I just clicked on the update screen to see what was going on, and Salzburg have just scored against Copenhagen. And that's it. If they beat Copenhagen, that's it. Because of our head-to-head record, we cannot go ahead of them. Even if we beat Chelsea 15-0, it's just not going to happen. So we have to rely on Copenhagen to score some goals. But Salzburg have just gone 2-0 up there, it tells me at the top of the screen. So whatever happens here now, it's probably all in vain, unfortunately. I mean, we're doing our bit. We're doing our bit completely. We're taking the game to Chelsea and showing what we're all about. As Schneider gets his second goal of the game. The thing is, we've played so well in this Champions League, but Salzburg have played just as well and slightly better against us, and that's what's let us down a little bit, I've got to say. But if we could beat Chelsea, I think we could have gone on to a quarterfinals this time. Obviously, we've been very unlucky against Barcelona and unlucky against PSG last season, of course. But it's just one of those things, I suppose. It's just the way the luck goes, as Copenhagen have pulled one back against Salzburg. It's 2-1 there now. Come on, Copenhagen. Just grab a second goal and it'll be fine. Grab a second goal. That's all we need. As Hudson-Odoi's through. Good save from Kalas there. Oh, okay. Well, it's not that exciting because Salzburg have made it 3-1 now. So Copenhagen need to score 2 goals now, which is probably a bit above them with 6 minutes to go into today's game. I mean, I'm so proud of the boys. They've done their bit valiantly. We had to beat Chelsea today, and as it stands right now with only a few minutes left on the clock of added time, we've done exactly that. It's just Copenhagen have let us down. Lads, seriously, just pull your weight better next time, please, Copenhagen, which isn't fantastic. You hate to see it, and there we go. Grasshoppers 2, Chelsea 1. It's a fantastic result on the night for us, but unfortunately, Salzburg have a better head-to-head record. And for the first time after entering the Champions League, we haven't qualified. We are going to the Europa League, which is very exciting in a way because I think that's something we could go on to win. So whilst there is a disappointment of being knocked out of the Champions League, I really think we could go on to possibly win the Europa League. So that's quite exciting. Now, I just need to go forward a few days just to essentially get through all the other European games, and then we'll go through how all the Swiss clubs have done in all of the European competitions so far this season. So a quick look into the Champions League. We're looking out for us, Luzern and Basel. We've come third, obviously. In Group B, Luzern have come third as well. So that's another team in the Europa League for the second half of the season. That's pretty good going. Looking out for Young Boys, not Basel, Young Boys. Young Boys have come fourth in their group, unfortunately. So they're out of all European competitions, but not a bad showing from the Swiss clubs, I've got to say. Moving down into the Europa League, we are looking out for, well, it's definitely, it's Lausanne, isn't it? And it's also Basel. There are 2 teams we're looking out for, if I can remember rightly. Scrolling down here, Basel have qualified second in their group, which is fantastic. That's really good stuff to see. So that's a 3rd team in the knockout stages of the Europa League. How Lausanne have come 3rd in their group, which isn't too bad because it means that they drop into the Europa Conference League. So out of the 5 teams that we've seen so far, 4 of them are still in Europe, which is pretty good going. And if we look into the Europa Conference League, we're looking out for Thun in this one. Thun, how have they got on? I'm looking for them. Come on, lads. Thun, where are they? Are they even in it? Did they qualify? Oh, they did. They came third in their group, unfortunately, narrowly missing out to Stade Rennes and Fiorentina there. So, unfortunately, that's Toon's European journey over. But we still have four clubs, left in European football next season, or the rest of the season, I should say, which is fantastic. So, next episode, then, we are going to do both games of the Europa League first knockout round. It's kind of a little bit awkward how it sort of lands at the Europa League because, I don't know, just it means a 4-game episode, or we have to skip a game or do 2 separate episodes. So I think what's most likely is probably Europa League Lausanne, skip the Servette game, and then do the next Europa League game as well. That's probably what's going to happen next episode. That's also in February, so by the time that comes around, we'll have had a whole winter break and transfer window to go through. So expect some changes, I would say, over the winter break. I expect some changes. Anyway, thank you very much for watching today's episode. I hope you have enjoyed it. And if you have done, please do drop a like on the video for me. And of course, subscribe if you're new around here. And I'll see you next time for some more Hot to the Top. Have a good one. Goodbye.